Well, if you want to see a team that's sort of out of gas, or actually very out of gas, particularly on offense, it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But fortunately for them, the schedule makers gave them the New Orleans Saints, albeit on the road, in the week before their bye week, and they were able to let the defense carry them in special teams to a 23-3 victory that was a lot sloppier than it sounds. Man, I was just thinking about the offense. I was looking at the numbers, and Baker Mayfield was sacked 3 times, and I think they only had like 220 yards, maybe, of total offense. Bad on third down, a turnover. It just was an ugly, ugly offensive game, and yet they also had 8 tries. It took them 8 tries from the 1 yard line to finally get in the end zone. So a goal line stand there. But this is what good teams have to find a way to do, is win. Find a way to win. Okay, you're hurting on offense. You don't have Mike Evans. You don't have Jalen McMillan. You don't have Bucky Irving. You don't have Luke Gedeke. You don't. And I'll be darned if they did to the Saints what you do to a team that has a first year coach, really bad quarterback, to the extent that all he's doing is turning the ball over. They had to play the rookie before it was over, and you get out of there, alive and at 6-2, which I think they've only been 5 times in their history. And now you get the week off, and maybe, just maybe, not a guarantee that some of those players start to come back when you really need them for the stretch run. But it was a kind of a gritty performance, but one that I know that while they're not proud of what they did on offense, they're very happy to have won that game the way they did.
Well, at the end of the day, they don't ask you how you did it, just how many you did.
No, they don't.
And
you're right.
When you play the bad teams,
Mm-hmm.
you have to find a way to win.
Yeah.
And, you can go around the league and find a lot of, how did the Falcons lose to the Dolphins?
Oh, my God. It was unbelievable. Yeah.
How did the Bengals lose to the Jets after having a lead the whole game? You look
Right.
around the league at and not that the Bengals are a good team, but.
No, but they were up big.
But yeah, they were up big. And, you have to, when you don't have your best game, when you don't have some of your pieces, how do you find ways to win, particularly when you're playing teams that aren't as good as you and the Saints, even though it's on the road.
Right.
And, that's what the Bucs did. And so no apologies for winning the game or how you did it. And now you get the extra week off, and, you hope you get some health with it, or, at least, Baker, who was wincing early in the game. He was not, you can tell he's not 100% either. The bye week is going to help this team, should, and, you're 6-2. That's tremendous. That's exactly where you want to be.
Well, what this game will be remembered for is have a day, Anthony Nelson. What a great story this guy is, and what he has been on the rare chances they play him. And, you could ask the question, why doesn't he play more defense? Because he's only played 30% of the snaps this year. Now, I recognize that's down, particularly since they signed Hassan Reddick, right, to a $14 million contract. You got Yaya Diaby starting on one side. You got Hassan on the other. Now, Nelson has never been a starter, but he did get more snaps on a rotational basis when Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was here, probably because Joe Tryon wasn't very productive. But if you look at his history, this is like his 7th year in the NFL. He'll end up with about 5.5 sacks a year, playing very little. This year, 30% is almost nothing on defense. And he's played like 85% on special teams. This guy's on every special teams. This is what he does to earn his living right now in the NFL. And the play he makes for the interception in the second quarter, first of all, he does as good a job as any outside linebacker they have setting the edge. And what I mean by that is, when you rush, you can't get so far upfield that you allow quarterbacks to run underneath you or out, or, if you go inside, they can gain the outside leverage and just, either roll out or keep the ball. Nelson will rush, but he'll also like stop and set the edge, so to speak. And that's what he did. It was a bootleg. He rarely, if ever, gets sucked in on the bootlegs where you have play action go one way, quarterback spins out of it, comes back to his right, and Nelson is there on that left outside linebacker spot. And he was just waiting, for their quarterback, and it was, he played it just right. He waited, and then he closed the space, And then when Rattler goes to throw the ball, he's 6'6", Nelson is. So he jumped up and tipped the ball up in the air to himself, made the catch, and then ran in from 3 yards. But not just that, and this should be on Kyle Brandt's angry runs. He throws a pretty mean stiff arm on his left arm and just like pushes Rattler straight into the turf, and he kind of steps over him into the end zone. It was like the damnedest play. Like, it's one of those career highlight plays, but you don't see defensive linemen with interceptions for that reason, because, very few are athletic enough. Now, this guy, could play. He was a basketball player, I think, back in the day. But this is what he does. Like, last year, I would argue that he made the biggest, what turned out to be maybe the biggest play on defense. They were playing Carolina, and I think they got into overtime, and the Panthers drove the ball well within field goal range. They ran it one more time with Chuba Hubbard, and Nelson came out of nowhere, just a hustle play, stripped Hubbard of the ball. Yaya Diaby recovered. They went down. Bucs went down, kicked a field goal, and got out of Carolina with an overtime win that they really needed to win the division on the last day with a win over New Orleans. Now, Atlanta wound up losing to Carolina, so it was a moot point after the Bucs won the game. But if had the Bucs lost that game, totally different set of circumstances. And this is sort of who Nelson has been, throughout his whole career. And it really set the tone, early. He didn't just have that play. Like, that was the second quarter. The first thing he does was have a sack. Then he has a forced fumble. Then he has another sack. I mean, his stat line was absurd. A couple of sacks, forced fumble, and an interception returned for a touchdown. Like, holy cow, man. Light it up.
No, it was incredible. And like you said, it started with the sack, then the forced fumble, then the pick six. I mean,
it just got better each time.
And that's a D lineman. That's not a linebacker. It's not a safety. Not a that's your D lineman.
That's your edge guy, yeah.
Who's not your starter.
No,
that's a guy stepping up. Okay, Hassan Reddick's out. So next man up. Next man needs to step up. And he's a proven commodity. He's been on this team for a while. We know he's good. That, but that's exactly what you need when you have guys down. Next man up. That's what they say nonstop in the NFL, because that number of injuries are, and that's what you had today. And what a day!
But that's a day that Micah Parsons won't have, right? Like, first of all, interception returns for touchdowns are rare to none when it comes to edge rushers for the most part. But you could name any of these guys that are making, $35 million a year. I know it's one game, and if he could do it every down in, down out, he would be starting. What Bowles said about him afterwards was like, well, he's Nelly this, and Nelly always makes these plays. But the thing about it is he goes, well, he's not our most athletic guy. And that's interesting, because that was one of the most athletic plays I've seen an outside edge rusher make. But I know what he's talking about. He's not necessarily as quick twitch as some of the other guys, the Hassan Reddicks, right? The guys that get, your 10 sacks a year and that sort of thing. But the defense was humming, man. Like, I was impressed. And listen, the Saints are challenged, right, at quarterback. Rattler has been a guy that's turned the ball over a ton this year. And, they finally took him out of the game and put their rookie in, which people have been calling for a long time. And so, he didn't do much better, by the way. Here's the other thing. They didn't get inside the red zone until like one of the last possessions of the game. The defense kept them, between the 20s pretty much. So it was a complete performance by their D. Like I said, Winfield had could have had a couple of touchdowns with better calls, which still the referees have not explained. But offensively, they're challenged in this way. They're having a tough time protecting Baker. They're having a tough time on first down. Now, they ran the ball, or attempted to run the ball, more than they certainly did last week, and they did use Sean Tucker as well as Josh Williams in this game. Josh Williams had 4 carries. But they only ran for a 3-yard average. 29 carries, though, was deliberate. 29 carries was intentional, but just 88 yards and a touchdown by Tucker.
But weren't 8 of those at the 1-yard line, and it took you 8 times to get in from there?
Well, that kills your average, yeah. 8 attempts at the one. And that, on the one hand, I could say, okay, show some confidence in your offensive line, get that yard, you got 4 downs to do it. But then after a while, it's like, okay, show some creativity and get the ball in the end zone, because they just couldn't move anybody, And I think that it's really now, well, while Charlie Heck is not a great player, he's been holding up with help on the outside at right tackle. Where they're really getting hurt now is inside. They're getting hurt, excuse me, with Graham Barton, um, with whoever's playing, it was Michael Jordan, I think, to start the game against the Saints. Ben Bredesen at times. The teams are exploiting them inside and getting pressure, and then doing a good job of setting the edge so that Mayfield cannot really get outside like he likes to, extend plays, throw off platform, that sort of thing. And they're not allowing him to get outside. And consequently, the ball is sort of coming out late, coming out hot, coming out early. He's just not in rhythm. He hasn't been in rhythm for about 2 weeks. And that's got to change. Like, they got to get Baker back to being, competent Baker, where he stands in there and, you know, um, makes those throws. I think he was late to a Buka one time that could have been a touchdown. And then many other times he's just early, so the timing's off, but you're also playing with really just a Buka, Sterling Shepard to some extent, but with that many injuries, you're not going to have Mike again. I don't know what Chris is going to give you, if anything. Like, this might be the group you get. This might be all you get right here is what's on the field. So they definitely need some guys back in terms of maybe a Luke Gedeke at some point. Maybe a Bucky Irving. That would be huge for them, because I think that the running backs are doing okay, but what they lack is that home run. They lack the big play, the 20, 30-yard run, maybe even a 50-yard run on occasion. And Bucky does a good job in the pass game too. So really miss him. And you just wonder what this team will be or could be, if they get their players back. Because to start out 6-2, I don't care who the schedule is. They got 2 wins in their division, both of them coming on the road. Atlanta suffered a horrible defeat with Kirk Cousins trying to play to the Miami Dolphins, of all teams. They got smoked. Carolina got smoked by the Buffalo Bills, and the Bucs took care of New Orleans. So, they've got a healthy lead now in the NFC South at 6-2, but it's still, as Baker said, he goes, we haven't, the most important part of the season hasn't begun yet. We still have, a whole second half, and it's going to get a little bit harder. So, but if you just said 6-2 with the injuries they have, with some of the teams they've had to play so far, their losses are to teams that are going to make the playoffs. They lost to Philadelphia, and they lost to the Detroit Lions, and they're going to have to find a way to beat one or both of those teams, if they want to advance in the postseason. But you'd feel a lot better if they could get their guys back. But some real warning signals, I think. The red light's flashing on offense right now, and Josh Grisard, who has done a good job of being really resourceful around these injuries, he's struggling a little bit. He's struggling to try to get an identity for this team when you just don't have your guys, and that's tough to do, because now teams can pay attention to Emeka Egbuka. They can double him. You're getting some plays, from Tez Johnson, which is nice, and not enough from Sterling Shepard, and virtually none from Ryan Miller. And so, I wonder, Steve, the trade deadline is next Tuesday. I wonder if the Bucs might make a bid for a receiver somewhere.
I think they have to look at that. They have to look at edge rusher. They need to look at middle linebacker. I don't know what's out there. I don't know, and what the cost is, because Jason Light loves his draft picks.
Yes, he does,
and it's done very well of late in drafting players and drafting, Buccaneers, as he would say.
But wouldn't you give up a 5th rounder if you could find a number 2 or number 3 receiver that somebody's ready to deal?
I would.
I would too.
If it's somebody who's going to make your team better,
well, that's
fit
the
mold,
idea.
Got to fit the team, and that, But
right.
Yeah, absolutely. A 5th rounder today to if that you think that helps you win a Super Bowl.
Well, it's well worth it. I mean, it's worth more than that if you could get the right guy. But
I'll give up a 1st rounder if I think it's going to help me win a Super Bowl.
It takes me over the top. I just remember, and this was a free agent signing, and this guy, thank God, it's not on the street now, but he was then. I mean, what changed the Bucs, and when Tom Brady was here, his first year when they won the Super
Mhm.
Bowl,
Yep.
was getting Antonio Brown, who
Ab
had been suspended and not on a team for 8 weeks. He came in here, took him a couple weeks, but only Brady could get Brown at that time to play like Antonio Brown, who was still incredibly skilled. But giving him a third receiver and a guy that had played a lot and could take the top off the defense, just completely changed them. And I think it'd be different. Like, while Mike may come back, they're saying it would be so late, maybe the last game or two of the regular season, maybe the playoffs, that you can't even consider him. If he's back, great. I'll tell you the other guy that I don't know about, and frankly, I would not have much faith he's going to be very good if he does come, is Chris Godwin. I mean, we didn't see really Chris Godwin playing great football before he had another injury to his fibula, which we're not even sure what that is or how it's going to affect him and when he'll be able to play. But when he does come back, I'm not going into it thinking, well, problem solved.
Mhm.
I think you need to find a healthy body, a productive player at the wide receiver position, and just see what you can do.
Well, we also don't know what Jalen McMillan's gonna be. I mean, that was a serious neck injury,
Yeah,
and
and there's something going on with that because he's not been allowed to do anything.
yep.
Um, and there's some school of thought, and this is just completely speculation. And you know how doctors are when you got all these guys on the internet that never examine anybody. It goes, I think, but some think that there may have been some arterial damage where he's on blood thinners, and you have to be off those for a number of weeks before you can have any kind of contact.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's the case, but we literally have not seen him. And when we did see him, he was still wearing a neck brace. Also, probably not a great sign. So I'm not
Mhm.
sure you could count. Now, if you knew he was coming back, problem solved for sure, because that guy's a dynamic player. I mean, I can't imagine what this team would be if they had those four receivers. If they had a Mecca being a Mecca and Godwin being Godwin and Mike and Jalen McMillan, who was having a great training camp when he got upended in Pittsburgh with that hospital ball that Teddy Bridgewater threw him. But they got what they got, and they got to find ways to run the football to protect Baker more. They got to do better on first down. Just a lot. The biggest thing will be just getting away, right? Getting away from football. I always thought it's a good thing when your bye week is around the middle of the season because it splits it in half too early, and then you got to play 11, 12 weeks without one. Obviously, too late, and you got too many injuries. They're about as late as they could possibly get. This one could not have come any later for them. If they had to play a game next week against the Patriots, they get destroyed. Now, as it stands, they'll come back. They'll get New England and then at Buffalo. So two really tough games. New England's leading the AFC East. Buffalo's right behind them by a game, and Buffalo, just demolished Atlanta, like we said. Or I'm sorry, just
Carolina.
demolished Carolina. So they snapped that 2-game losing streak, and they're gonna be really tough up in Buffalo, New York. So the games get harder. Um, Brady used to say that the season doesn't start until after Thanksgiving, and we're just now getting at the end of October. By the time they play again, it'll be November. So not too far away from that part. But now, once they get past those games, there is one in Los Angeles when the Rams are definitely an NFC contender. But then you got Atlanta at home, who you've beaten, and is struggling right now. You've got Carolina twice on the road and at home, and then you got New Orleans at home. So, a bunch of division games that they've already, taken care of those teams, with the exception of Carolina, who they get twice. So the good news is we'll talk to Todd Bowles today. He's going to have I think his press conference around 12:30 or so. Maybe get an update of some of the players that might be back. He said he didn't know when we talked to him last night, and you know, we'll check that out. We'll all take some time off, including me, which would be great. Not from this podcast, don't worry, but just from the rest of it. And then we'll come back and figure out who they're going to have with them later on. I want to talk about the Lightning's weekend, and a good weekend it was for them. But first, hey, get on down to Breitling Boutique. That's at International Plaza Mall. You know the place. It's the second floor. Go in there. Great store, great customer service. The Breitling Company has been in business now for 100 and, I don't know, 40 something years. They've been at International Plaza Mall for 5 going on 6 years. And they are the ones where you're going to find the beautiful Swiss watches For the men, it's the Chronomat, the Navitimers. For the women, it's sports watches. These things are very durable. If your wife, girlfriend is on the go like mine, these things will hold up. They look beautiful, and she can choose from an array of different colored wristbands. And while supplies last, you like the NFL? Well, they've got 32 NFL team watches. They're celebrating the NFL's 104th year anniversary. Each watch is singular of its own design. They're Chronomat watches for men. They have the team colors, the team logo on the face of the watch. But the key is it's only while supplies last. So you got to get down there. You've got to get to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Please, when you go, let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. So turns out, after kind of a shaky start to the season, I guess the Lightning have had a pretty good little mini homestand here.
Yeah, they won both games over the weekend, back-to-backs over Anaheim and Vegas. Kind of did it different ways. Vegas, they dominated that game against Vegas.
That's a good team, too.
Had a goal called back. Yeah, I mean, through, I think it was early in the third period, they'd given up 9 total shots to Vegas.
Wow.
They had more high danger chances than Vegas had shots on net. Now, Vegas ended up with 19 shots on net. There was a couple power plays in the third period, but the Lightning did well. Kucherov finally got his 1,000th point. Victor Hedman got his 800th point. Brendan Hagel got his 300th career point. There's all kinds of milestones set over the weekend.
Wow. A lot of celebrations going on there.
Yeah. Kucherov had a goal in the third period to give the lead against Vegas that was called back for offsides. He ends up getting the overtime winner. It was a good weekend for the Lightning, and they go from team with 1 win to all of a sudden 3 wins. And it's way too early to watch the standings, but they're a point back of the last playoff spot. So it's they still have some defensive issues, particularly on the rush. Still give up too much of that.
What's changed them, though? Did they make some changes on defense over the last few games?
Not really.
No.
There's been some personnel has changed a little bit. Zemgus Girgensons came back this weekend for the first time all year. If you remember, he got hurt in that game against Florida.
Yes.
The last preseason game. Took the cheap shot from Verhaeghe that was not penalized, or was penalized but not fined or suspended.
Yeah.
So he came back. They've been bringing some rookies up and back. Dominic James has looked fantastic in his first 3 games. If you remember, he was a kid they signed. He was a draftee of the Rangers.
Oh, wow.
No, Blackhawks, and didn't come to terms. He went to college, didn't come to terms, became a free agent. What Isaac Howard would have been next year for the Lightning. If had he still been with the Lightning system, he said he wasn't going to sign there. He would have become a free agent next August. Well, Dominic James
dealt him,
became a free agent this past August. And so the Lightning signed him, and he looks fantastic. He's fast, flies up and down the ice. Looks like he belongs in the NHL, which is what you want to see. So I think they're figuring some things out. It's not a finished product. Is everything perfect at what they did? No. But it's early in the season. You're figuring it out. And now you're finding ways to put wins together. So, which is, munching points.
It's just a matter of all the new faces that they have, or are there really more new players than there normally are anyway, really?
No, I don't think it's the new players. I think there's, Zemgus Girgensons being out, there's a presence to him. John Cooper talked about that after Saturday's game. One of the most impactful guys coming back, and you may not see it on the stat sheet in that, but I think a lot of what he does for the team. It'd be nice when Max Crozier gets back again. He's hurt. Hopefully he's maybe back this week. They play at Nashville on Tuesday night, then they're home against Dallas Thursday. Then they'll go on a road trip out west to Utah on that starting Sunday. So, I think it's just, like I said, there's lots of things to fix still for the Lightning. They're not where they want to be, but a stretch like what they went through to start the season can happen in the middle of the season, and you wouldn't think that much of it. It just happened at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think if you saw the relief on Kuch's face after he got 1,000 points, and then if you saw his reaction to scoring the goal late in the third period on Sunday, another one it was called back, but then the overtime winner, I think there's been some pressure and some relief that's been, that's past them now. And I think that can help too. I think there's still some work on the power play. They still got to figure out how they're going to run the power play this year. But
the power play's got to get figured out because it was a problem a year ago.
So you say it was a problem, but it was fourth in the
Well,
NHL.
it was fifth. I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, okay, it wasn't a problem.
It
but
didn't look. It didn't look the same as when
something
you had
was
Stamkos.
different.
When you had Steven Stamkos sitting in the opposite circle from Cooch, it looked a lot different than it
you
did
knew
last
who
year,
you knew which way they were going to lean. Yeah, to try to protect that one time where it created some openings. But
Hagel finally got his first goal on Sunday, and that was a relief. I mean,
you start to
some of that
press.
There's some of that pressure stuff. So
yeah,
like I said, they're not a perfect team. They're still trying to figure out some of the lineup stuff.
Yeah,
they went 11-7 on Sunday. Darren Radish drew back in. Curtis Douglas, who they played on Saturday, only played 4 shifts Saturday, so they kind of went 11-6. So then Sunday they just went ahead and went 11-7. So I think there's still stuff to figure out. I don't think they're as polished as maybe we thought they'd be coming in, but it's a team figuring out how to lock things down. I mean, the hardest part was, I think Sunday was the 5th game they were tied going into the third period, and they were 0-3-1 prior to that.
Yeah, they lost a few overtime games. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I mean, you get a point, so it's not a total defeat. But well, that's good that they're playing better, and you got to play better at home. That's the thing. Like you definitely want to maintain your edge there, and take your chances on getting points on the road. But that's good to start to develop home ice again.
And Sunday, Vasilevsky finally got his first win of the season. So a lot of the stuff.
A lot of firsts.
Johansson had the 2 wins prior, so
yeah, a lot of firsts.
So there's a lot of this that maybe it's the the monkey off the back, the
get off the snide, right?
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for. So
yeah. Well, you got to trust that Cooper and those guys. The only danger I think is it's hard to say now, and we probably can't say it for a very long time. But is there a tipping point with the age of some of their stars? Some of their foundational guys. Will we start to see that at some point? Not sure that would happen at the start of a season. Maybe if you got into the playoffs or you played a lot of games, maybe. But right now it shouldn't be a factor. But there will be a time.
The guys you're worried about, like McDonough,
Hedman.
Well, McDonough's got 3 goals this year already.
Yeah, McDonough's scoring. Yeah,
he had 4 last year.
I know.
Yeah. Now, granted, his main role is not to score.
Right.
So that you don't anticipate that continuing, but
right.
Hedman as well. He's played fine.
But like a guy like this, Yanni Gord. Like I don't know if he's the Yanni Gord that they remember before he left here. Like he's had some injuries.
I don't know if he's the same, but I can tell you that the line with him, Holmberg, and Gergensons. Wow.
Yeah.
The forecheck pressure they put on teams.
That's good.
I'll tell you the most impressive part this weekend was Saturday night. They're playing Anaheim, and they're up 3-1 going to the third, and they give up 2 goals. So now it's tied 3-3.
Right.
And this is like what you worry about the Lightning losing that game. The Lightning score with 3:15 to go to take a 4-3 lead. The relentless forechecking that they had for the last 3:15, Anaheim couldn't pull their goalie off the ice.
Oh wow.
They couldn't get their goalie off the ice for the extra man. The 6
they put that much pressure on him
because the puck was in their end the whole time.
That's fantastic. That's what they used to do.
It was impressive. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it was one of the most impressive things you'll see for
how
3 minutes and 15
out a
seconds.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, that's how you got to play. That's how you got to do things. It was just, but it was so dominant. Like when the team's trying to pull their goalie to get an extra man, they can't do it for 3 minutes plus.
That's impressive.
That's what the Lightning need to hit more often. We always talk about a 60-minute game. That's impossible in hockey, but you're trying to get as close to that as possible. But that relentless forecheck, we got the lead now. Let's shut it down. That's something that they haven't had this year, and you saw that Saturday night finally.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. I didn't get a chance to watch either of the games, but it's good to know that they're back on it. Speaking of how you need to shut teams down and get the win late, Not so good for USF and Alex Golish. I watched that game from this very spot that I'm at now, here in New Orleans, in my hotel room, and I started watching it on the plane. But I must tell you, there were a couple points in that game that I said out loud, and not for anyone's consumption because no one cares what I think. But I did say when I think it was the third quarter, goalish. I think they had like a 4th and 3, maybe 4th and 4, but it was down near the goal line, and they went for it. And I just felt like they were up 7 at that time, I believe. And I just was like, just take as many points as you can get now, right? It wasn't an easy conversion. It wasn't like 4th and 1 or 4th and 1 on the goal line or anything. They were trying to get a first down, but I just felt like it's a chip shot, right? Let Grammatica kick it, go up 2 scores, go up 10. So you file that one away and you're like, okay. But then they got the ball back. It wasn't like they gave up a score, but it's still points off the board, right? And then and then it got to the point where, you can't allow a team to outscore you 17-0 in the fourth quarter, or 17, whatever it became, 17-3. But they're up a couple touchdowns. But I just felt like, this notion that Golish has, this offense, this fast break. How many plays can we get off, to keep the other defense from substituting, to get them tired? Like, that's all fine. It really is. It's fine. You want to do that? Fine. You better make some first downs, right? Or you're not going to have any time of possession. But if that's the way you play and you're successful at it, go for it. However, when you are in the fourth quarter, the only thing you should worry about is winning the game, right? Hello, you play to win the game. And I'm sorry, but whether you're talking about college football, pro football, youth football, this game is played with a clock, okay? And it's not over until that clock is at 0. And if you've got a lead, especially a 14-point lead, and you're into the fourth quarter, don't feel like you have to throw 3 passes and use 9 seconds on a possession, right? Like, there's just, why are you in the hurry up anyway? I know it's your offense. But your goal is to do 2 things: get the timeouts, get the time, shorten the game, get late in the fourth quarter, make this team have to come from behind. Don't give them all the time in the world and then they still have 3 timeouts and a 2-minute warning on top of it. I just felt that they went too fast. They didn't use up any clock at all. And to his credit, Golish took the blame for the loss. I mean, he said, I didn't do a very good job there. I don't know if he's referring to that, managing the timeouts or the time in general or not. But you do have to find a way to win that game. And it's so big. I was thinking about this, Steve. Is there a path for them, to get to the conference championship and or the college football playoff? Yes,
absolutely.
there is.
Yes.
There absolutely is. They'll need help. They'll need somebody else besides Alabama Birmingham now has got to beat Memphis, right? It could be Tulane, right? It could be some team like that. Meanwhile, though, there's no margin of error for USF. They got to win at Navy. They got to win the rest of the games on their schedule in the conference. And they could still make it to a championship and then beat what would likely be Memphis and get into the college football playoffs. But, brother, if they take care of business like they should have, like I felt they should have in the fourth quarter, and they walk out of there with a win, I mean, you're talking about an awful lot of revenue to get into the college football playoffs. And the USF would benefit greatly, not just from the exposure, but from the revenue of being part of that tournament. And it cost them losing that game. We don't know the extent of it just yet, but it could wind up being very significant, very significant. And it was a game that was just there to win. It was right there for them to win.
Well, that's the thing. You were up, 31-17 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Fourth quarter.
You talk. That's when you've got to play differently and shut it down, and run that clock. That's the whole, the stats, how you want to play. That's great, and it got you there. But
got to win it. You got to find a way to win it.
Most important. Yeah, the clock when you have that lead in the fourth is the most important thing.
Yes,
bleed that thing.
Don't give them chances because you've got to bleed out as much as you can. And you want their timeouts. You want them to to feel hurried at some point in the game. They never really felt that. They never felt that stress. And if anything, USF felt it. USF still had a chance to march it down, and they did, and they got into field goal range. And then, and this might be a little bit of hubris too, they had about somewhere under 10 seconds, around 7 seconds or so, and they decided, let's take one shot. Give me one shot at the end zone, which is going to be a low percentage throw. Obviously, they're going to guard the goal line and whatever. They didn't hit it, but worse yet, they got a holding penalty, and it pushed the field goal back to about 53. I'm here to tell you that ball might go through at 43. He pushed it to the right a little bit. It was on the right hash.
That was a bad snap too, which didn't help.
It was a low snap. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with the whole operation. But I don't think they helped their kicker any.
Nope.
Again, get the game to overtime, extend the game, right? I just said you play to win the game, which would be taking a shot in the end zone. Yeah, but it's still low percentage. I mean, I guess if you had a great play and you felt really good about it, maybe. But obviously, hindsight's 2020. It just felt like, oh man, there was so much at stake at this game. You got the benefit of an Alabama Birmingham team that had nobody, just fired Trent Dilfer, had Chris Mortensen's son coaching, that upset Memphis when Memphis was on the goal line to win it. And you get that benefit, and then you don't do anything with it. Like, it was right there for them. So hopefully they'll get another shot at it, and maybe get some help from some other teams. But they certainly have put themselves in a position of having no more margin of error themselves. They got to win the rest of them, I think. And then we're seeing more coaches getting a copy of the home game. The latest is Brian Kelly at LSU.
He is. So no more fake Louisiana accents from him.
Where's he going to fake the accent next?
Who knows?
Oh, man.
It's the amount of openings this year. And
I know.
the types of programs. It's just crazy. From Florida to LSU to Penn State. I mean, holy cow. It's nuts this year. It just how quickly coaches are getting fired, how much payouts are.
The buyouts. I can't believe they're paying these buyouts. It's just astronomical.
Now that everything's above board with NIL and money and this, like, it's, if you don't win now, and I mean now,
yeah,
you're gone. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's becoming like pro football.
No, it's worse than pro football. Pro football didn't react that way.
Well, yeah, they fire coaches all the time.
Well, they do, but not that quickly, not that much in season, not that, like, it's
maybe not so much in season. I mean, I think the difference is in college, obviously, that there's a fight not just for the coaches but for the players. Like, you better, better if you can get Lane Kiffin out of Ole Miss, and some of those guys will stay because they know about it, they know who it is. First one in, first one out, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're all competing for the same pool of guys. So that might be the urgency there. But it is like, the expectation is you win now. And if you don't, we're moving on, even with the buyout. Like, it's an incredible amount of money to pay for these guys, $50 million and, stuff like that. What was it? Jimbo got like $90 million. Crazy money.
77, I think his was, but yeah.
77. Just, I mean, please, God, let me be so bad at my job they'll pay me not to do it. Like, what universe is that? It's the multiverse or something I've never been part of. But yeah, there's the openings, right? And you can see more. You can see Mike Norvell be out. You can see, obviously, Florida is on the looking for a coach, and Kiffin is said to be their number one target. Arkansas needs a coach. I would worry if I was a USF fan and you like Alex Golesh. I'd be very concerned he's going to go to an SEC team like Arkansas. I think his wife's family's from there. I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Look, I fully expect Alex Golesh to be gone next
year. We've talked about it. You think it's a good thing because that means you've attracted good coaches who won.
It's not a good thing, but the reason he's going to go is because he resurrected a program. Like,
he did that.
Like,
he did that.
It was awful when he got here. Like,
yes, it was.
Four wins in 3 years, only one against an FBS school of those four.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
like, and he's gone to 2 7-6 seasons of bowl games and a shot at the college football playoff this year. Like,
yeah.
So he's earned
He
it. He's
made you
earned the
relevant.
chance.
Yeah.
He's earned the chance. And if he leave, I fully expect him to leave. I hope he
Yeah.
doesn't. I hope
Is
he
he
says, "Hey,
taking
I
a
want to stay
quarterback
here."
with him? I bet he does.
But I hope he says, "I want to stay here. I want to keep building this. We got a stadium coming. Realignment's coming again, and we're going to get a spot." Like,
Yeah.
I don't expect that, but I hope that for the USF.
I
But
just wonder how much more money they can throw at him, because that's what's going to have to keep him here. They'll say it's not about the money, but it's about the money.
well,
That's
it's about
a big part of it.
It'll be money not only for the coach but the staff and everything else too. I mean, that's a big part of it as
Exactly.
well.
Yep, absolutely.
Some coaches will be like, "Hey, I don't need that much more, but pay all my staff twice as much," because that's how you keep winning. You
Right.
keep the assistants happy too.
Yep. No, that's true.
Yeah, the amount of money in the college football now is just crazy.
Yeah.
Or at least the amount of money above board.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the players are making it too, so they've all got issues.
It's amazing now that everybody can pay the players, how the parity is back in college football. Amazing how that works.
Yeah, big time, because you can't have a team like Alabama that's just stockpiling 4- and 5-star recruits because these guys are going to wait. If I'm not playing, I'm going to go somewhere else. They're not going to wait, and play just 2 seasons and get drafted in the first round. One of the things that Nick Saban struggled with, why he got out of the game, I believe, is that he couldn't stack them, like he used to. But
and speaking of coaching openings, and we didn't talk about this because we had pre-taped Friday show before this news happened Thursday, but USF has an opening as a women's head basketball coach, as Jose Fernandez going to the WNBA to coach Dallas.
How about that? And I was a little confused because I was thinking, well, wait a minute, basketball season, like what took so long? Aren't they playing? But the WNBA doesn't play concurrently with the
they
NBA.
just finished their season. They just finished.
Yeah, they just finished up with the LA Aces. I think the Aces won I don't know who won, but at any rate, yeah, they just ended it, and so it's horrible timing for USF.
Yes,
like they're ready to play now.
Yeah, so they've appointed an interim coach for the year, who's was Jose's right-hand person for like 17 years here. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's awful timing for them. You can't really do a search at this point.
No,
you're kind of stuck. But Jose Fernandez did a tremendous job here, and you're happy for him. But yeah, the timing does stink for that.
Well, very happy for him. Although a lot of college coaches just decide they're college coaches. But he's taking this opportunity, and let's be honest, he's going to coach. Like Paige Beckers is in Dallas.
Yep.
You're going, for all the great players that USF got, and they got plenty, right? He's done a great job recruiting from all over the world.
Yep.
They got their share, but it wasn't UConn, and they competed against them, but they didn't get that depth, that type of player. So for him to be able to go to the WNBA and there's Paige Beckers, hello, and it gets better from there. So I think he'll do great. I think he'll do a great job. And at an age where, who knows if he thought this opportunity would come around, cannot blame him. Cannot blame him for taking it. I saw, what people were saying, and he did an unbelievable job with that program. He really did. And then, the men's basketball starting up. I mean, there's a lot going on in college sports and pro sports. The World Series is tied 1-1 as we do this podcast, and that's been interesting so far as well.
Yeah, you finally figured out how to they got Blake Snell out of the game.
Yeah,
he would pit 100 pitches in 5 innings.
Yeah, this time you can't blame the manager for giving him the hook.
Yep.
Yeah, he was missing a little bit and getting behind hitters, like you said. But they did come back the next night and got a complete game performance from their pitcher, and now it's 1-1. So it could be a great series. It goes many games. We'll see. So how that works out. So yeah, it was a busy weekend in sports. Obviously, we'll have a lot more coming up this week. Not so much with the Bucs, although, like I said, we'll talk to Todd Bowles and find out what, if anybody, he thinks might be returning after the bye week, and it's a big important game at home against the New England Patriots, who are leading the AFC East. Very tough physical team, like their coach, Mike Vrabel. So that'll be good. And then it's on to Buffalo, who seem to get the train back on track, and they're obviously a contender for the AFC East as well. So some tough games coming up, and looking forward to all that. Hey, folks, get on down to Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. We told you about those watches, the NFL watches, 140th anniversary being celebrated. 32 team watches, 32 different types for yourself, and watches for your girlfriend, wife. Sports watches, they're beautiful. She's going to love them. It's Breitling Boutique International Plaza Mall. Please let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.